Hello, everyone. Welcome to Good Film Hunting, a podcast about an average couple who are on the hunt for some good movies. In today's world, we are consuming more media than ever, perhaps more passively than ever. But we believe that by documenting and discussing the media we intake, how and what we intake will change for the better. It is important that we don't just become another consumer, but a participant, seeking to engage with the media we consume, so that we can see how our view of the world affects how we perceive it, and how it affects how we perceive the world. In this podcast, we are not only on the hunt for some good movies, but on the hunt for a good discussion. So, lean in, participate, and enjoy. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Good Film Hunting. James Scott here as always, and sitting across from me is my lovely wife.
Savannah Scott.
Yep, you're getting better at it.
I know.
You know how to, I'm blanking on the words. We're not off to a good start, apparently. Also, I'm sitting on a very creaky chair, so if anyone's listening and is like, man, this guy's bones are old, it's not me, it's the chair. However, I do have old bones. I crack and pop sometimes in places I shouldn't.
You do.
I do.
Not as loud as this chair, though.
No, not as loud as this chair at all. Tonight's a special night because this is our first unofficial live podcast because Savannah's little sister was spending the night for a couple nights, and so she's sitting across from us watching us. She hasn't seen this movie, probably for the best, so we'll break down later, but she'll just be watching, and she'll have to let us know her honest opinions after we're done. So, Savannah, before we delve in, how are you doing?
Doing good. Quite tired.
Yeah, you've been busy. You've been very busy lately.
I have. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I'm doing well.
Yeah, that's good. Do you think things are going to wind down with the winter coming, or do you think they're just going to get busier for you?
Hopefully wind down.
But
we will see.
We will see.
But there's certain things that I'm committed to right now are not seasonal things.
This is true.
So I feel like they'll probably continue.
Okay. Well, that's fair. All right. So let's delve into this review. Savannah, what movie are we doing?
We're talking about Stardust.
Stardust. Had you ever heard of this before?
No.
No?
I don't even know why we watched it.
Don't tell me you regret it.
No, but where did you hear about it again?
I've known about this movie's existence for a while. I think even one of my uncles owned it on their movie collection. I've known of its existence.
I've literally never heard of it in my entire life.
And then I just kind of forgot it existed, and then Cinema Therapy did something about it, and we do enjoy Cinema Therapy. So I went, that could be like a fun movie just to watch casually one night because, we just watched Lawrence of Arabia. Very long, very dramatic. Maybe this will just be a fun change of things. And it was an adventure. Let's just say that.
I feel like it was a good length, too.
Yeah, it was a good length. Mm-hmm. If you are listening to this review or this podcast for the first time, let me give a brief breakdown of the episode structure. I've got some facts for Savannah about the movie that I'll share with her. Most of them she won't know, so we'll just kind of listen to her reaction on those. We'll share our general spoiler-free thoughts about the movie, our favorite moment of the movie, then delving into spoilers, Savannah will give a 5-minute plot recap. We will go through our rating system where we have 4 categories. We'll rate on a scale of 1 to 5. Then we'll just share our overall rating recommendation summary at the end and move on to another movie some night. All right, Savannah, you ready to delve into some facts about this movie?
I am.
Ready? Okay. So, this was released August 10th, 2007. So, it's a pretty old movie. It's a little old. It was directed by Matthew Vaughn. We haven't seen anything he's done before, but he's best known for the Kingsman franchise, which is kind of like a secret agent British action film spy series that stars Colin Firth as the main character. It looks a little edgy, unfortunately, so I don't think we'll probably ever delve into it. It was written this film was written by Jane Goldman. It's based off a book of the same name by Neil Gaiman. I think it's actually an illustrated book.
Like a children's book?
No, it's not a children's book. I'll get into that in a bit. The film was distributed by Paramount Pictures, has a runtime of 128 minutes, so as we established, pretty good. Pretty good runtime, pretty reasonable. Had a budget of $88.5 million and a box office return of, want to guess?
300 million.
No, less than that.
100 million.
Just about 137 million. So this unfortunately wasn't really considered a financial success because that's not even twice as much.
That's so sad.
Yeah. The score was done by Alan Ishkari, who did the score for Young Victoria, which we watched not too long ago. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
with Emily Blunt. Mm-hmm. He also did the score to the Shaun the Sheep movie.
Fancy.
He has quite the array going on. This film stars a lot of very famous people. I mean, most people in movies are famous, but like this movie has a lot of big names. It's got Charlie Cox as Tristan. He's best known for doing Daredevil from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Maybe you've heard the name Daredevil before. Okay. It's got Claire Danes, who does Yvaine. She does do Little Women. Mm-hmm. She does Beth in the 1990.
1995.
1995 Little Women. I know she had been in something we'd seen recently as well. She did the voice of San in Princess Mononoke. So she did the voice of Princess Mononoke herself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I thought it was interesting. It's got Michelle Pfeiffer as Lamia. So I didn't realize that was her.
What has she been in that we've seen?
She hasn't been in anything we've seen. She's just a very iconic actress. Yeah. I can't name anything that she's done aside from like Tim Burton's Batman Returns or something like that.
Okay.
But she's a very iconic person. Mark Strong did Prince Septimus. So I only just learned this actor's name, even though we've seen him in a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Young Victoria included in that.
Yeah.
I actually, like, he plays a very stereotypical type of character, but he's got a nice jawline, so I enjoy when he's on the screen. And I really liked him in this movie, surprisingly.
He was kind of funny in this movie.
He wasn't funny. It's got Robert De Niro as Captain Shakespeare. Guess what actor was in this movie that we have very recently seen? You probably wouldn't think of it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Peter O'Toole, who did Lawrence.
Oh.
He was the dying king of Stormhold.
What a coincidence.
I know, right?
That's weird.
And then it's got Ricky Gervais as Ferdy. He was a night at the museum and co-wrote, and acted in the British television sitcoms The Office.
Oh, oh really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I wonder if the British Office is different than the American Office.
That's a good question. I don't know.
I feel like I've heard that it's not as good.
Maybe. I don't know. Couldn't tell you. It did have Henry Cavill as Humphrey. I kind of saw him and knew. Henry Cavill, we've seen him in Mission Impossible 6. He did the bad guy in that one.
Okay.
He does the famous like arm cock thing. I guess you're not familiar enough.
No.
The bathroom fight scene.
Who did he play in this movie?
He was Humphrey, the love interest for Victoria.
Oh, okay.
It also has Ben Barnes as Dunstan Thorne, young Dunstan Thorne, or also Prince Caspian.
Yes.
Also known as Prince Caspian. And the narrator was Ian McKellen. So there was a lot of people in this one.
This is a star-studded cast. You didn't even mention the goat guy.
This is true. I didn't even mention him. Mr. Weasley.
Yes, Mr. Weasley.
So yeah, that was fun. That was fun going through. They're like, wow, they got everybody for this movie.
That was kind of before a lot of them probably were famous too.
Maybe.
I guess the Harry Potter movies was pre.
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as development goes, the adapted screenplay was written by Vaughn and screenwriter Jane Goldman, as established, Jane Goldman had been recommended by the author of the book, So one of the difficulties in adapting the novel was the book had a very dark nature to it. So it was just a lot of really dark comedy and a lot of sexual tones to it. So, and it wasn't as lighthearted as this movie was. So in order to keep this film within like a reasonable time frame, they went ahead and decided to go a lighter route with it and remove a lot of the extra stuff to kind of make it more accessible to people. So they definitely made it a lot more whimsy and humorous than the actual book was. So, I mean, that was interesting. Gaiman, what was nice about him as the author was that he fully realized that, you know, a movie is going to have to cut out a lot of things from the book. So he was in full support of a movie that did the best of like adapting something, but not like, you know, page to page or word for word kind of thing. He wanted to capture, you know, the spirit of something, the essence of it.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So that was nice that he was in full support of that. The production started around mid-April 2006 with principal photography taking place in Pinewood Studios in London. Some locations for filming included Westeros in the Scottish Highlands, also the Isle of Skye. There was also a scene done in Iceland, so just they took advantage of all those fancy places. They used a lot of ancient castles in Europe for actual backdrops or sets, which was fun. The design of the witch's lair was inspired by the Hall of Mirrors and the Palace of Versailles.
Oh, Versailles.
Versailles, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. The biggest difference was that instead of it being white and gold, they made it like black and silver.
Oh, okay.
So there was a lot of inspiration for this. And I thought it was neat that they really delved and took advantage of, I guess, the United Kingdom's landmarks and landscapes for that. I thought that was fun.
Yeah. The sets were really, like, when it wasn't bad CG, like, it was, I thought it was cool looking.
Yeah. The director Vaughn wanted to do a sequel that took place in London in 1960. So, interesting. But unfortunately, this film wasn't financially successful enough to warrant a sequel. So.
How sad.
How sad. How disappointing.
I
know, right? The critical reception for this was pretty positive overall. Critics were a little harsher on it. People just thought it was fun and whimsical. Some people that it was trying to be a little like it was trying too hard to be something like Princess Bride, which I can kind of see, like maybe they were trying a little bit hard. Some people actually really like the dark humor aspects to it, as we'll go into later. Audiences seem to generally like it more than critics do. Like if you look up audience reviews, they're actually pretty high for this movie. But the biggest negative feedback this movie got was on Robert De Niro's performance. People just didn't like what he did with his character. And I'm wondering why that was. Like, people consistently did not like what he did. So I don't know if it was something like the character he was playing or his actual performance and me not being familiar enough with him. So
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. As far as awards go, this didn't really get a whole lot worth mentioning. Ben Barnes, who did the young Dunstan, was the preferred choice over Tristan originally, as he was considered more attractive.
I mean, they're not wrong.
That's true. But Matthew Vaughn intentionally wanted to go with Charlie Cox because he was less known, and he didn't want to include someone like Ben Barnes or Orlando Bloom, who were big actors and like everybody would know. Or someone who already had like suave to them. He wanted Charlie Cox because he could kind of do like a dorky character who could transition into being more of a suave character a little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit. A tiny bit. Fun fact, all the prince's clothing they wear have pattern spellings on them in Roman numerals, composed in smaller Arabic numerals, which very frivolous information, but like very detailed. Like, okay. Furthermore, Septimus wears a vest with the numeral 7 on each button.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know, really.
And Septimus means is like a 7.
Is it really?
Maybe all the brothers' names are like alluding
has to
to
do
the
with the
number, their
number?
birth order. Because how many brothers are there?
There's like 7, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. You do bring up an interesting point.
Yeah.
Interesting.
If that's true, I could be totally wrong.
could be
I
wrong.
could be stupid.
I mean, maybe that's what they went for, but interesting observation.
You should really fast Google what Septimus
Septimus means. Septimus. Because I remember there being a book called Septimus Heap. Septimus means 7th. You're right. Look at that. So smart.
I know.
That's fun. If I hadn't brought that fact in, I wouldn't have known that.
I know.
Another fun fact is that much of Freddy's dialogue was ad-libbed by Ricky Gervais. For example, him telling Lamia that he can get her a 2-faced dog as a guard dog that can watch the front and back entrances at the same time was ad-libbed.
Oh. There you go. That's a good ad lib.
I know, it worked well.
It did.
So, those are all the facts I had. Not a whole lot, but a lot of fun ones.
I know.
What are your general, spoiler-free thoughts on this movie?
I thought it was definitely very dorky.
Oh, for sure.
It was, and I think I might have seen you say this in your notes, but I think it was definitely a mixture of Princess Bride and Elle Enchanted.
Oh, I see you did look at my
I
notes.
did look at your notes. Yeah, I would say that. Just like really like cringy
Oh, for
and
sure.
dorky.
Mm-hmm.
Although much more bad CG in this movie than in those 2 movies.
Right. I mean,
There was like no CG in either of them.
There definitely was some in Elle Enchanted because there was the snake character, which was definitely
That's true.
CG.
That is true.
Princess Bride, there wasn't because they used man-rat costumes.
That's true. I thought it was kind of dark.
It was a bit dark.
A little
Definitely darker than those 2.
a little unnecessarily scandalous
That's true.
in some ways.
Yeah.
But all in all, kind of fun. Would I watch it again? I probably wouldn't want to rot my brain by watching it again.
But then at the same time, you're like, well, I wouldn't be like completely opposed to it.
If for some reason like my sister was spending the night, like Abby, and wanted to watch this movie, I would watch it again.
Okay.
For that, like watching someone else watch this movie, but like I don't know if I'd feel compelled to watch it on my own again.
That's fair. That's fair. The one word I just used to describe this movie would be entertaining. As I mentioned in my notes, it was my original thought too. You stole it.
I know.
Was that it did feel very much like the Anne Hathaway Elle Enchanted meets Princess Bride. Equal levels of just corniness. Elle Enchanted was a little more, almost a little more campy, I'd say. Like in terms of production quality, it was just terrible.
What does campy mean?
Campy is like when, I'm trying to think.
I know I've Googled it before, but
Let me look it up real quick. I just have an intuitive knowing. In the style of camp, absurdly exaggerated, artificial, or affected in a usually humorous way.
okay,
So, yeah.
that would describe Elle Enchanted.
Yeah, very campy. But
Kind of like Shrek. Would Shrek be considered campy too?
no, Shrek wouldn't be campy. We don't really watch too many campy movies. It's a movie where like they just go all out and it's just absurd to the point of like this has gone beyond the point where my brain says it's bad. Like I know it's bad, but like it's entertaining is bad kind of thing.
It's true.
But yeah, it has like the campiness of Elle Enchanted, but more like the heart and scope of Princess Bride. But yeah, it was a fun movie, and I think the biggest thing is it had likable characters.
Yeah.
Characters were definitely my favorite part of it because the plot was, as we'll go into, very stupid. And was not well done. Lots of questions left. Did have some nice payoffs though, which I wasn't suspecting. Some interesting things came together and went, oh, okay. They did a good enough job that I feel satisfied with that.
Yeah.
Another biggest issue I had was that there was a lot of magic in this movie, but there were no rules to the magic, so it felt so inconsistent. I never felt tension.
There was too much magic.
Yeah, like why can this happen but not this happen, and why does this have this consequence but this, which is greater than that, not have a consequence? And it was just all over the place, and Yeah, that was definitely a less enjoyable part for me. And as you stated, there was definitely some content, like a lot of innuendos that just weren't really necessary. It just kind of took away from enjoyment and my ability to, sit back and just be able to enjoy it as much as I want. It did have some morbid humor that I thought was funny. We'll go into that. But yeah, it was just entertaining. It was fun. Did you have a favorite moment of the movie?
My favorite moment was when the main character, what was his name? His first name? Tristan, got turned into a mouse. For some stupid unknown reason, really. Like,
for
completely
sure.
useless reason.
Did nothing for the plot whatsoever.
No, but he got turned into a mouse, and Yvaine was...
this might be spoilers. If you don't know, if you can't know where this movie is going when you watch it.
Yvaine was like, she told him she loved him, and was like spilling her feelings to him as a mouse, and was trying to confirm that he couldn't understand her, but we come later to find out that he was understanding her the whole time, but he was just like blank mouse staring at her the whole time, and it was funny.
That's funny.
Like, she's confessing her love to a mouse, and he's just like looking at her with his giant mouse eyes.
That was funny. That was funny. My favorite moment was when the goat man, Billy, where Lamia tells him to charge, or to stop Tristan and Yvaine, the unicorn, from getting away. And he jumps up on the table and gives them a very goat look. And then he just starts charging at them hunched over. It's the dumbest thing ever, but it's so funny.
It was pretty dumb. The whole goat situation was dumb. And then when he died...
That was so sad, but so funny.
But he was just like a dead goat. It was weird. He
just charged the unicorn head on and then died and turned into a goat and went flying.
So sad.
It was absurd. That's when it's so campy that it's so funny.
It's true.
All right, so Annie, ready for a 5-minute plot recap of this movie?
Sure.
Sure? Okay.
This will be good benefits for Liberty, too.
It will be, since she's not as familiar with that. Okay. Ready, set, go.
So, once upon a time, there was this town called Wall, because there was a wall around it. Mm-hmm. And on the other side of the wall was this magical universe that we can't really know about.
Right, it's top secret.
Yes. So one day, this boy that lives in a wall decides to go over the wall. And the guy who guards the wall was trying to keep him from going over the wall. And then he's turns around and then escapes and ends up going through the wall. And he wanders into this magical marketplace and sees this girl who very scandalously makes him come and hang out with her and stuff. And I don't really know, maybe she was trying to get him to free her because she was a slave.
Yeah.
But I don't really, anyway.
Yeah, it's not clear.
Activities ensued, and he leaves after that and goes back home. And then 9 months later, a baby arrives on his doorstep in a basket, which is a little unexpected. And he kind of
Uh-oh.
He has this baby, and he's like, "Hi, baby." And then I think we cut away from that to however many years later, and the baby grows up into an adult. And the baby's an adult, and this boy is in love with the baby, who's a boy, a young man now, is super in love with this girl. And he hangs out at her house and throws rocks at her windows and tries to get her attention. And she's kind of whatever, you're not that cool. But he's like,
I'd do anything for you.
I'd do anything for you. And so he ends up losing his job because of her, kind of. And then he takes her out on a romantic picnic that cost all of his life savings. And he's like, you know what? Dumb. I love you so much. And to prove you're my love, I will get a star for you. And she's like, ooh, a star? Cool. This other guy's going to propose to me with a fancy ring in a week. So you have that week to bring me a star. And he's like, okay. And so he goes on a star journey. And then we cut to this castle in the magical kingdom next to Wall, and the king of that magical kingdom is dying, and all of his sons are gathered around him. Some of his sons are gathered around him.
The remaining sons.
I think 4 of his sons are gathered around him, while 3 of them are ghosts and are floating around in the room, kind of watching. And the king's like, I'm about to die. And whoever goes and gets this ruby from the fallen star or whatever will get to be king. And so they're like, okay. And there's kind of like this banter, jokes, and like stuff about the brothers trying to kill each other. It ends up a couple of them die before they even start on the mission because they're trying to kill each other. And it ends up being two brothers going on the mission to go get this ring or this ruby from the fallen star. Okay. Anyway, the young man goes and finds the star too. He goes to the star via a Babylon candle, which is like apparating in Harry Potter.
Right.
And he finds the star and he's like, whoa, you're a girl, let's go. And he like very like dumbly and like very teenage boyish like tries to like kidnap her to bring her to his girlfriend for some reason. And so they go on this journey that is very elaborate, and it's kind of a parallel journey to the guys for the princes. And there's lots of magic. There's an evil witch who wants.
I guess we should establish there's a witch.
I know the witch wants the star because she can eat her heart and become young again. And yeah, anyway, there's just a lot of stuff that goes along with that. Anyway, the star and the teenage boy fall in love. Naturally, and then there's a battle scene at the end. Oh, pirates.
Yeah, there's the pirate scene.
There's pirates.
He helps them.
He helps them. There's a good pirate, and he helps them. Mm-hmm. And then he tells the boy that his true love is standing in front of him. Mm-hmm. And he's like, wow. And then he falls in love with the star. And she falls in love with him. Mm-hmm. And then there's a battle scene at the end. And then Tristan realizes that he's the heir to the throne of the kingdom, which is convenient because all of the princes have killed each other and have died.
Which was so funny.
And he finds out that his mom is actually related to all the princes and is like a princess. Mm-hmm. And then they all live happily ever after in the kingdom. Yeah.
Wow. What a plot.
I know.
This movie I think is so bad it's funny.
I don't know. It was quite dumb.
Very dumb. Very, very dumb. All right, let's delve into our 4 categories in a rating system that we'll rate on a scale of 1 to 5. Those categories include our overall entertainment, production quality for the film, writing, and content. All right, so Savannah, on a scale of 1 to 5, what would you give this for entertainment and why?
Probably a 4.
Okay.
It wasn't like the most entertaining movie I've ever seen in my life, but it was funny. I had some laughs, although most of the time I was just like, what in the world is going on right now?
How and the why?
There were a lot of funny moments. Mm-hmm. It was very exaggerated, like dramatic moments. It was funny. I thought Tristan being super infatuated with this kind of dumb girl that wasn't really that she wasn't that great. Right. Was funny. And then falling in love with Yvaine was kind of random, but like, of course, it had to happen.
Right. Yeah.
But it was funny. I thought it was humorous.
I gave it a 5.
Wow.
I don't think it was ever bored because the film was so absurd from start to finish. And a lot of the entertainment came from me just asking like, they did what? And why did they do that? And whose idea was this to do this? Like, it was just, I was consistently asking those questions, but not like the worst way.
You know what kind of reminded me of was Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Right, yeah. Vaguely, that's fair.
And I'd say I was invested enough in the story. But more than that, I just enjoyed watching the characters go about and interact with each other. And I loved that most of the characters kind of get to interact with each other at some point. Mm-hmm. I think the only ones who don't are the pirates and the witch. Mm-hmm. But the prince interacts with them and they all interact with Ferdy and everybody has a crossover at some point. So that's just fun. I think that's all I really had for that. Very straightforward, very dumb movie, but very fun. What would you give this for production quality on a scale of 1 to 5 and why?
Probably 3.
Okay.
CG bad special effects.
Horrible
Terrible.
CG. Like, what in the heck
Yeah.
is that?
Really bad special effects, really bad CG.
What, do you know what the worst CG shot was? The one that scarred me?
What?
The one where the unicorn comes to save them. First, and second of all, we don't get any follow-up on this unicorn.
Mm-hmm.
This unicorn that, like, conveniently shows up and saves Yvaine.
And then disappears forever.
Yeah, but, like, the witch casts a fireball at the unicorn gets caught in the fireball, and it's a CG horse, and it's, like, eyes bulge, and looks like a really weird cartoon horse you'd see in, like, a meme, and it's just scarred me.
I don't remember
Like, it wasn't
that.
gruesome, it just was weird looking, and...
It scarred you, genuinely, like psychologically damaged you?
Just a little bit, yeah.
Really? I don't remember that at all.
You don't remember it? It was very fast, and then we never got follow-up. Like, we never saw the unicorn's dead body, and they never grieved it. It was just done.
How
like,
sad.
oh. Anyway, continuing.
The acting was okay. I mean, it's hard to not have good acting when you do have a whole cast of, like, decent actors. The sets were very setty.
Very setty.
Very set-like.
Okay.
It was a very setty set, I felt like.
Very setty set.
Most of it didn't feel particularly realistic. I would say, even
though
though
it was all filmed on real locations.
yeah, and even though it was a very broad film, like as far as like where they were, it felt very small.
Yeah,
I feel like the map was really tiny.
that's fair. Yeah.
I think the worst CG to me was the hole in the ground where the witches supposedly lived.
Oh, that was pretty bad
that was
too.
really bad.
Yeah.
Probably almost. I think I'm gonna give it actually 2.5.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I just thought it was pretty like not super artful, and
Okay.
but it wasn't bad enough to take away from my enjoyment of the movie.
I mean, once again, it was so bad, it was kind of good. I gave it a 3 for production quality. The costumes ranged from being cool to okay. The visual effects, not good, as we've established. Sometimes a little horrifying. The landscapes were pretty, but I felt like they were somewhat contrived and had no purpose in the story other than that they were just showing off pretty landscapes and characters standing in pretty landscapes.
The prettiest landscape and like the only one I really noticed was like after they got off the pirate ship.
Okay. But there were several shots of like characters riding horses in these vast landscapes, or like Lamia throwing runes in a landscape, or the scene in Iceland with Septimus.
That was pretty.
Yeah, it was pretty. It just didn't do anything for me when it came to the plot.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, it was a big film, but felt small, and it just felt like the story beats weren't necessary to be on these massive landscapes. Like there's that whole scene where Septimus is interrogating some, I guess it's a soothsayer with the runes, and they're staying from this massive, gorgeous, icy beach. But like there's no reason for them to be there other than the fact it looks pretty, and it just feels fluffy as opposed to like Lord of the Rings or even Lawrence of Arabia, where the landscapes serve a purpose to the plot itself.
Yeah.
So it was pretty, but no reason to be there, in my opinion, and almost distracting. The acting was the best part just because I can tell everybody had so much fun. You can tell they had so much fun with it and interacting with each other. I really enjoyed, was it Mark Strong? Is that the guy's name? Yeah, Mark Strong. Because I've seen him play the same character like 3 times now, but seeing him in this, like, with the long hair, like, he looked cool. I thought he looked like a cool character.
You had such a man crush on him.
I don't know, in this movie I did. But it was just fun seeing him be like a goofy character for once. Like, okay, that's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to see him do something a little outside the archetypal character he's been doing. 3, like, there was a lot of bad stuff, but there was good enough stuff for me to be like, okay, I'll give them that. What would you give this on a scale of 1 to 5 for writing? Oh boy.
There were several things that didn't make sense, and I don't remember a ton of them off the top of my head. But I thought that there were definitely some holes.
Okay.
Like, I don't know, the whole Tristan's parents situation was kind of weird.
Right. Just
Didn't really make any sense.
they kind of threw it in there.
They
like,
did.
okay.
And like, so
right.
we got a hint that the princes in the kingdom had a sister that disappeared, like really casually. They're like, oh yeah, she's been gone forever. What are you talking
Yeah.
about? Like, we don't think about her.
Right.
And to find out she's been enslaved by this, like, witch, and she ends up having Tristan with this guy. Which was kind of weird. I feel like there were more that I could think of, but, like, they're not coming to my mind right now.
Okay. Well, let me go into my portion and maybe you'll think of some things. To start, I gave this, I don't think you rated it officially. Did you want to do that or did you want to wait?
I'll wait.
Okay. So I gave this a 3 because it does have a fascinating / fun premise. The idea of a star falling from the sky. It's a fantastical creature, a person in this case, and you've got several different plot beats going on. You've got the guy who's kidnapping it to give it to what he supposes is true love. You've got the princes hunting it because it has the ruby, and then you've got the witches hunting it because they want it for their own purposes. So it's kind of like Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest when they're all after Davy Jones' heart. Like, you've just got all these converging plot points. So that's fun. And I just thought the premise of like a star being a character was kind of fun and interesting. And I was invested enough in Tristan and Yvaine's story, you know, them falling in love. Like, it was cheesy and a little rushed, of course, but like, they did a decent enough job for me to be invested in it. But on top of that, they didn't really do enough world building for me in terms of the star people themselves.
She was just a shiny girl.
She was a shiny girl. That's all she was. Like, who was coincidentally a star.
And also made occasional references to watching the world.
Yeah, and she glowed when she was happy.
Yeah.
But like, what would be the significance of Tristan falling in love with a star? Like, what are the stars? Like, the film didn't really, it kind of opened with like a mention of stars, but like, it would have been neat to me if they were kind of like elves in a sense, like these beings who had some sort of relationship to the world, but then like didn't. And so there was this complicated web of like Tristan getting involved in that.
I know, and then we only find out towards the end that she can't exist in like the quote real world. Right.
Yeah. So it wasn't necessary for her to be a star. This could have been an inanimate object, really, and there'd be some other girl he falls in love with, really. I also hated the fact that the princes were after a ruby that knocked her out of the sky. Like, that was just random and made no sense. Like, that was really weird. And in my opinion, what should have happened was, but if like she came to Earth because she was curious, you at least remove the convolutedness of the ruby, and it becomes the king going, whoever gets this star first, you know, will be the rightful heir, or maybe even the princes want her as a bride, kind of thing. Rather than
the ruby didn't really play any part in the
didn't at all, and they just wanted the ruby, which the star happened to have. So remove the ruby, make the star the more central aspect or character. So there's just convoluted. Yes, the beginning of the film was just baffling. Like, this guy goes over the wall, checks out this place, falls in love with somebody for a one-night stand, and then has a child.
I know. I was like, what?
What? It was really absurd. And there could have been better ways of doing that, I'm sure, but I don't know, like, maybe his dad was from this magical place, and through tragic events they got separated, and he was left to raise Tristan, which would make their reunion at the end so much better, because they've been separated for so long.
Yeah.
As opposed to this weird
it literally was a one-night stand.
Yeah, and then like the end, they're like, "Oh, it's so good to see you. It's been forever."
I know, let's be married.
It's like, what? No, that's not. Also, why did they recast Ben Barnes for 18 years? Like, 18 years isn't that much time to look like an old man.
I know, he didn't even have to be there.
I know.
He must have been, like, he probably was, like, 20. So, like, he would have not even been 40, probably.
No, it was just really weird that they chose to do that. Also, there was no consistency to the witches and their magic and the consequences, as I mentioned. Like, what are the rules? Like, she can build a tavern and turn animals into people and people into animals, but, like, that hardly have a consequence when, like, she'll do something very little with her magic and, like, it turns her old again.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, it was all over the place and made no sense whatsoever. So I just felt no tension from that aspect of it.
And we should backtrack to the flower.
Right. I do have that written down as a point.
I thought you were going to touch on it when you were talking about Tristan's parents.
No, yeah, that's fine. Well, let's just talk about it, like the flower. Want to take that away?
Well, Tristan's dad buys a flower, supposedly.
In exchange for one night stand with this person.
Yeah, which is weird. He gets this flower, no reference to it and what it does, other than she's like, you should take
It's lucky. It's a lucky
flower,
whatever that means.
And then he gives it to Tristan, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then Tristan wears it.
Right.
And it protects him from harm. Mm-hmm. Then as soon as it's gone, he gets turned into a mouse. The worst thing that could possibly happen.
Oh, no.
And then that's the worst thing that happens after it's gone.
But then he gets it back.
That's true.
And it protects him from the witch's flames, but absolutely nothing else the witch does to him.
I know. That was just so weird.
I wish it had been more of a reveal. Like, it had been these weird coincidental things keep happening, and, like, they're always commenting, like, haha, you have really bad luck. But it turns out to be good luck, like the pirates capturing them. Oh, that was such bad luck. But actually, it was good luck in a lot of ways. And then later on, you realize this flower has been the secret to all of this.
Yeah.
Set up in the beginning. That would have been really cool. But they were so inconsistent with it.
They were.
I thought Tristan had a decent character arc for the most part until they got to the end. Oh my gosh. Let's talk about the end. So, Prince Septimus, Tristan, they want the star and the ruby from these witches who've captured her. Tristan has learned what it is to be a man, so to speak, from the pirates. Like, he's brave, he knows how to sword fight, he does all these cool things.
He looks a little more suave.
Longer
hair.
And then there's, Septimus, who's been this villain throughout the story, and he's cunning, and he's merciless, and he kills people when they don't do what he wants. And then they get to the witch's lair. Septimus runs in like a fool and just gets blasted by fire by these witches consistently. They keep playing it up like it's some great tension. I'm like, I know how this is going to end. These witches' magic is limitless. He's not going to make it. And Tristan like hides in a corner the entire time. Like, I guess he's reuniting with his mother kind of rather than helping. Like, they didn't come up with any sort of clever plan.
I know.
And so Septimus dies.
I know, because it kind of seems like they were going to have a plan.
I know. That would have been a fun moment. That would have been a really fun team-up moment. But Septimus dies, and then, he joins his brothers as the ghosts, which I guess we haven't touched on yet, which I want to get to. Which is played as a joke. And then Tristan's all by himself to face these witches, and, the flower helps him but doesn't help him, and, like, it's just really weird. And then the Lamia, after she loses her two sisters to the battle and, like, everything's destroyed, she's like, oh, what's the point of beauty? It's all vain. Which could have been, like, interesting if they left it at that. It was kind of tragic. Like, okay, she just lets them go. And it was her own desire for beauty that destroyed her. That's a decent arc. Yeah. But of course, they didn't do that.
Like, just kidding.
She's just kidding. I'm going to be dramatic and perform more magic.
Yeah.
And then how do they resolve it? With love. Yvaine shines so brightly, which she always shines when she's happy. So she shines because Tristan's there to save her. And she shines so bright that she obliterates the witch.
That was honestly like the cheesiest part of the whole thing.
What? No.
They're like hugging, and she's like, you know what stars do? They shine. And then she shines really bright because she's happy and in love. Even though they have this unresolved conflict between them because Tristan looks like he left
That's
her.
true. That is unresolved. They never talk about it. She's just
so
happy
she's just
because
like,
he
"He's
came
here,"
back.
which is a sign of an insecure attachment or something.
It's true. Yeah, they didn't resolve that.
No.
Because he left her to go tell
Mm-hmm.
Victoria. He didn't even need to do that, really. But he left to tell her that he found his true love. But they were doing it for dramatic tension. But
Yeah.
Yvaine misunderstands it, obviously. And this is where it's crossed over bad to like really bad territory. So we are asking these questions. Also, there's no point to Tristan turning into a mouse. Like, why would you turn into a mouse?
And he didn't have to be a mouse, other than for a comedic beat, which is fine, I guess. It was funny. It was my favorite part of the movie.
It was. We'll let it go. Let's talk about the brothers real quick. Very morbid.
It's true.
But they were my favorite aspect of the movie.
The only brother I didn't like was that really creepy looking one. I don't know what happened to him.
Whoa,
like
which
he had
one?
like some sort of skin condition.
Oh, kind of like he was frozen or burnt or something.
Yeah, I didn't like that. Oh, maybe
So the premise with these brothers is that, as Savannah kind of discussed, they're always trying to kill each other. And so the joke with the king when he's dying, he's like, "Ha! I had 13 brothers, but how do you think I got, my throne? I killed them all." So it's set up. There's obviously not a good relationship between these guys. But there are the ghosts of the killed brothers hanging out like off screen. Nobody can see them, but the dead brothers can see each other, and they look like what I guess they look like when they died.
which was really weird.
So one of them fell from a great height, and like his hair was like blowing behind him because the great wind, and his face was kind of flat, and it just was really
weird.
And as the other brothers throughout the story die, they join them, and it just becomes this really weird, goofy thing. And Septimus is the last one, so he'll be the king, right? If he gets the ruby back, but he dies. And then there's that moment of like, oh wait, are we stuck here forever? I thought it would have been funny if they were stuck there forever as like a consequence, but they get out because Tristan restores the ruby.
Wait, they come back to life?
No. They like evaporate or something. Like they're released from their curse of being a ghost.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But I just thought the moment of the Septimus being like, "Oh, it's you guys," and then they were like, "Wait, are we stuck here forever together?" I guess we gotta learn how to get along.
Okay, yeah, I remember that now.
That was funny. Yeah, this plot was all over the place. I do give it a 3. It was really bad, but I feel like I don't know for sure how much of it was intentional.
I'd probably give it a 3 too.
It was just funny. It was really absurd.
It was funny.
So, we've now put our one live audience member to sleep.
No, that's good. She needs to be asleep for this part.
That's true. Yeah, this part. So, last category, content, where we weigh the less savory aspects of this story against, the overall story itself, the message. Was it necessary? Was it offensive? On a scale of 1 to 5, what would you give this for content and why?
Well, as someone who's very paying attention to the content,
Whoa.
I'll walk us through.
Down.
I'll walk down the trail of content in this movie. So, we start off this movie with a one-night stand. Very aggressively pursued one-night stand.
Not inappropriate in the sense of...
It doesn't show anything inappropriate.
Yeah, it's just
like
what's
you can
implied.
see this predatory woman leading this young man, who, by the way, seems at least a decade younger than her.
Right.
Which is very weird.
But then looks a decade older than her 18 years later.
He looks more like at first he looks a decade younger than her. And then 18 years later, he looks 3 decades older than her.
Yeah, right.
So he jumps from 20 to 60.
Well, that's what happens when you do things like that.
I know,
Bad things. That's why you shouldn't do it.
It's true. So that was weird. Kind of uncomfy. Kind of a very jarring start to the movie.
It was like, oh no, this is setting the tone, all right.
And then I think from that there's some immodesty throughout the movie.
Right.
Not anything terrible.
You never see anything too bad. It's more of what's implied. There's a lot of implications.
Yeah, there's a lot of innuendos that I felt like I picked up on that were kind of unsavory. Like I've said, this movie has a child's plot.
Right.
But unfortunately, the content's not childish enough.
No.
Because like an adult would probably not watch this movie and be like, "This is so like great." But,
well, I mean, audiences say
it's
otherwise.
It's true. But like this is more of a childlike movie, but the plot or the content keeps it from being child friendly.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's some violence, kind of some gore, a little bit. There's a naked man in a bathtub, which lots of innuendos and implications about him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is
a little
simultaneously kind of funny, but also like, I'd probably give it a 3.
Okay. I haven't decided yet. I'll talk it through and we'll kind of see. So there was some language here and there, but whatever. It wasn't too bad. There were some off-screen animal slaughters so the witches could predict the futures. That was kind of dark.
Oh yeah, the guts and stuff.
Yeah, that probably made me the most uncomfortable. I have no idea why, even though it was a joke. Just, I don't know, the idea of just killing things like that just kind of was like, this is just uncozy, whatever.
The witches in general were very hideous and creepy.
Oh, they were. I mean, they were really goofy looking.
They were, but still kind of creepy.
That's true. Oh, I guess they go into production quality. Lamia's
the witch makeup was horrible.
Oh, for sure.
Like
she looked like Gollum in transition from Return of the King. Like at the beginning, where he's that really weird prosthetic that nobody likes. Yeah. That's what it looked like.
The makeup on the ghosts or the witches was terrible.
That's true. Anyway, back to content. There was also just too much unnecessary killing for my liking. There's the whole plot with their brothers, but they were all despicable characters, all trying to kill each other or whatever. But it's when Septimus in particular kills a few people and doesn't kill them because he's just evil and we're like, oh no, this guy is bad, but rather it's like played like a joke.
Yeah.
It bothers me. And that's what bothered me about Dead Man's Chest, Pirates of the Caribbean, is there was just a lot of death, but it was cartoony all the time, and it just shows a lack of respect for human life.
Yeah.
So that's just something that bothers me. There was quite a bit of sexual undertones going on. Not the worst, but the movie starring the way it did kind of set a tone. Lots of innuendos. The whole transformation of the guy into the girl, which was completely unnecessary to the plot.
I know.
Like, one thing if he just turns into her, like, okay, that's unnecessary, but they just really drastically played that up and kept making jokes with it and emphasizing things that weren't really appropriate. So that was uncozy.
But also a little funny.
It was a little funny. It was a little funny because, like, but yeah, I not necessary by any means for the plot.
Not very uplifting.
No. And also, the message was about love, right? But the way they play it out, where Yvaine confesses her love to Tristan as a mouse, he realizes, oh, I heard you the whole time. But it happened to be while she was taking a bath and she was in a vulnerable spot. And naturally they're feeling things for each other.
Because she's wearing a towel.
Of course he feels these things for her because you're in a bedroom alone like
wrapped
this.
In a towel.
Yeah. So what are you saying about
totally
and he's like, I found my true love. Like, that's not how that works.
No, he never saw Victoria wrapped in a towel.
It's true. I mean, Victoria had other issues going on.
She was kind of dumb.
So it just, the message was not particularly great
actually,
there.
I forgot that there was implied that they like slept together too.
Yeah.
Which is not very child friendly.
No. So this movie just had a lot of things in it that, like, I wouldn't be opposed to watching this movie again with the right kind of people because it was so bad and it was funny. Like, it was genuinely entertaining. But there was just enough things in it for me to be like, I don't know if I can really eagerly recommend this like I would The Princess Bride. Like, very silly movie, but you know, it's accessible to most people.
Or El Enchanted.
Well, Enchanted.
Silly.
A little crass, but like
Yeah.
not nearly as bad as
No.
this by any means.
No, this definitely deserves its PG-13 rating.
Right. So I teeter between a 2 and a 3. Primarily because just most of it wasn't necessary. For example, The Social Network has edgier content, but it fits in better with the story. Whereas this one, not necessarily. So I might, and I could change my mind if I sleep on it. I think I'm going to give it a 2 for content.
I probably will too then.
You know, if you think 3,
No,
like
I feel like it is a little more edgy than 3.
yeah, it's just unnecessarily edgy. Like it doesn't have to be, and they did it because they could. So, which isn't a very respectable thing in and of itself. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not so bad that I wouldn't watch it again, but just kind of like, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
So, what are your overall general thoughts? Give us thesis statement for your thoughts. Would you recommend it? Would you not? Does it make the list of good film hunting?
I would rate this movie a 3.
Okay.
It was funny. It was interesting, but I think between the content and the just badness of the production quality, I would not recommend it. I would be like, hey, if you want to like laugh at a super like cursed movie, cursed is a good word for this movie. If you want to just watch a movie and be like, wow, that was weird, but also funny, I would be like, sure, waste an hour and 12 minutes of your life watching this.
Hour and 12 minutes. This is like 2 hours.
Oh, it was an hour. Sorry, an hour and 20 minutes of your life.
No, it's 2 hours.
That is an hour and 20. Sorry, 120 minutes
It's late.
of your life. 120 minutes.
100 and...
Yes. Anyway, maybe, but like, I don't think your life will be better watching it. Again.
I mean, I feel like my life is a little like it's fun.
I don't know.
I can't say it was inspiring.
No.
It didn't change me for the better.
No, and it was just kind of, I don't know, kind of left me feeling kind of weird vibes. And just kind of, So I would say rate the movie a 3. Maybe I'm teetering between 2 and 3, but I feel like 3 is a decent middle ground. No recommendation, and I do not think it makes the list. I don't think that's even a question.
Wow. Ouch. I give this a 3 overall. Like, it's so much of it's bad, but as I've established, I found it very entertaining. It was funny. But there are a couple things that definitely do keep me back, namely the content. And because of that, I just can't really recommend it to people. I mean, I would... Yeah, I don't know if I'd recommend it to people. Oppenheimer, it got a 2 for content, but like everything else is going for it. And even then, the content isn't, I feel like you can get around that content more easily than you can with this, where it's just underlying and it's always there.
Yeah.
And it's a constant theme, so it's going to be in your thoughts more. Yeah. But like, I did have a good time, and it was fun. It was that bad, it was fun. But yeah, I wouldn't let it join the list. And I don't say that in the sense of like, no way it doesn't join the list, because it was fun enough to the point where I do feel like my life was made better just because I had such a good time.
Yeah, I think
and like
that
our
if
conversation's
just a couple
good.
Key things were changed, I think it could potentially make the list.
Yeah.
But
and it's made for a fun, good conversation. So I consider that it went. Like if we talked about it and we were kind of like, we talked about it and that was good, but it was kind of like, we just didn't get anything out of it. Whereas this one, we're like, this is fun. Yeah. But yeah, no more than that.
If was a good example of us not getting anything out of it whatsoever.
It's true, right? All right, well, thank you all for listening to our review of this movie. We hope that you've enjoyed. Let us know what you thought about this movie in the comments. And until next time, good film hunting.